Hello everyone and welcome! When it comes to list videos, I usually try to make them special on this channel. We have 10 unique login screens, 5 story myths, top 5 weakest champions, top 5 strongest champions, top 5 strongest champions. But then we have 10 facts you didn't know about League. A video I have already done twice. That is 20 facts you didn't know about League. And yet here I am doing it for the third time. So let's have a look at yet another 10 facts you didn't know about League of Legends. Just like it was with the previous videos, the goal for this is to show you at least one thing you didn't know about League. So don't expect any well-known facts. We are digging deep below the spaghetti code holding the fabric of League's reality together. And just like before, if by any miracle you actually do know all 10 of today's facts, give the video a dislike or let me know in any other way. But in case I actually taught you something new at least once, a like would be appreciated. So, without further ado, let's get on it. Let's start with a heavy hitter to farm up all the likes. Very long time ago, during times when this is what your rankings look like, yes, that is actual ELO, and by that I mean almost exactly 5 years ago, Riot decided to jump onto a trend that spread throughout gaming during those times. Riot wanted to make people play League for the same reason they play WoW or they don't play Stanley Parable. Achievements. Believe it or not, but Riot was very close to implementing achievements into League of Legends. In fact, they were so close that the achievement tab was in the old client since the official launch of League of Legends. It took them over 2 years to remove it. That happened on the 15th of May 2013. Wisely, they decided to get rid of it, because forcing side objectives inside competitive games is not a very good idea. Guess what happens when little Timmy finds out that you get an achievement for getting 10 kills as Soraka? Hell happens. Before removing the achievements tab entirely, Riot tested this feature in-game. An early version of the achievement system was used for the old in-game War of the Three Sisters that happened in 2013. That system handed out the OG Freljordian icons, but because it could never hit its mark, achievements were removed. 5 years later, the idea was turned into missions. And even with the release of the new mission system, it was heavily criticized. It's hard to make achievements work in a competitive environment. Either Little Timmy will make your life hell, or they will be worthless. After all, getting a reward for killing 100 minions doesn't feel great, since you would try to do it anyway. But you already know that, because that's what Riot is dealing with right now. Now, let's jump into something you will know if you watch our channel. Back when Riot stories were told through the Journals of Justice, the newspapers of this virtual world, which, let me remind you, are not real anymore. Riot looked into other creative ways to tell their stories. One interesting idea they had came with the release of Lissandra and the Holding Abyss. Winning a game of ARAM and waiting long enough would trigger a script where Lissandra told the tale of the Frozen Watchers. Sadly, this doesn't work anymore as you get kicked out once everyone leaves. This might also be on purpose, since the story was altered, and it might not fit the new world after the release of the universe. In any way, this is not the fact I wanted to show you. You see, months before this happened, Elise got something similar. Elise was the first champion to get her story narrated. During her release week, were you to open League's client and wait for the login screen music to end, the second time it looped, Elise would tell you her own story and the story of the Shadow Isles. A nice way of giving you some lore while you waited for your hour-long queues.
The Shadow Isles. They say they don't exist. Mythical islands haunted by ghosts and specters. Tales to frighten children. But I know better. I have been there.
As time goes forward and skins get much higher and higher quality by default, it also means that there are less resources for all the other things. This was one of the reasons why it took so long to get seasonal maps after Summoner's Rift was updated. But back in 2010, skins were mostly about changing colors and playing with unique ideas. Riot wasn't afraid of releasing cheap skins as people appreciated them. I don't exactly know what changed, but these days if a skin isn't worth 1200 RP, it's not worth releasing. But going back to 2010, Riot's resources allowed them to work on side projects to enhance the game's seasonal feel. For example, did you know that during the harrowing 2010 a lot of in-game items changed? You might know about potions from other people on the internet. It is well known that health potions were turned into candy corn, mana potions became mana encrusted apple, and elixirs were turned into pieces of candy. But for some reason people forget that a couple of actual items changed too. Hunting guys became pumpkin guys, and frozen heart became frozen brain. As a bonus fact, there are two reasons why these items were discontinued. First of all, Riot achieved adding in these items by duplicating the original item and changing its name and icon. This means that there were two separate items in-game. So if Riot decided to buff or nerf the original, they also had to remember to change the duplicated item. This could cause a lot of problems, and ultimately, it wasn't worth all the trouble after the coding got much more complicated. For Haunting Guys, there was one more problem. You see, back in 2010, the Haunting Guys was its own final form. There was no Liandry's Torment. So bringing this item back would mean that you buy the Pumpkin Guys, and then you turn it into the standard Liandry's Torment. Continuing on the topic of themed content, runes were used to promote a lot of events. In 2010, you could buy special runes that were less powerful than tier 3 runes, but more powerful than tier 2 runes. It wasn't until late 2011 that Riot decided to upgrade them to tier 3, so they were at least useful. There were runes for Christmas, Winter Olympic Games, Halloween, and they even had an exclusive rune for employees that competed in a gaming industry tournament in 2011. But besides all of these, Riot released the first and to this day the only promotional in-game item in collaboration with another company. The Razor runes obtained during PAX 2011 were the only time Riot took a deal to promote someone else in-game. It's funny because the Razor Mark of Precision, which gave you critical strike, was usable from level 1. And OG players will know how awful it was to have critical strike runes against you in the early levels. The other rune was Razor Quintessence of Speed, which gave you movement speed. Both of these runes were below tier 3. So once you got maxed out, you would never see these runes again. There is a decently known fact surrounding Tryndamere, and I mean both the character and the co-founder of Riot Games. But most people don't know about the full story. In the old lore that hasn't been canon for over 4 years now, Tryndamere had to marry Ashe to keep peace in the north and to give people a sense of united nation. There was no romance between them, they did it purely for political reasons. But did you know that Tryndamere's, or Mark Merrill's wife, is called Ashley, and Ashe was named after her? What's funny about this is that all of this is just a massive coincidence. They didn't get married in-game to reflect on their real-life relationship. In fact, the creative design team had no idea that Ashe was named after Tryndamere's wife. So this was never intentional. Mark Merrill confirmed this in his very old AMA on Reddit. It's actually Ashley, and the funny thing is that our creative design team had Ashe and Trynd marry because they were both from the north, and had no idea that she was actually named after my wife. Ashe was the first character we made, so it was fate. We know that Riot has many different creative ways of teasing new champions. They use puns in Nexus posts, they tease them in-game, or sometimes they tease them in stories. But Velkoz had a very different way of being revealed. Riot asked YouTubers from different regions to use their clip of Velkoz invading their content. We know about 14 different channels that got invaded. Here's an example of what it looked like in Trick to G's video.
Got it blows, so she doesn't have excessive force, so I'm gonna come in there, excessive my sword right in the back of her, boom, she takes the blue, cause I'm bad, come around the side, boom, you dead! What the I don't even know what the f that was, but I got the kill on Vi though, so that's what it meant, you know, I got that double buff.
Yet another fact you would know about if you watch this channel, but because most of you don't, and because this is a pretty cool fact, I have to mention it here too. When Pool Party 2013 arrived, we got this login screen to set up the summer mood. Everything might seem normal to us, but were we to be there during its release, we wouldn't know whose this arm is. Everyone thought it is just a teaser for a non-existent pool party skin, just like it was for Morgana, Lux, Ahri or Vayne. Maybe this could be the arm of misfortune. But to us, it is now obvious that this is definitely Jinx's tattoo. You see, this login screen was revealed in August, but Jinx was released in October, so without even knowing it, we got teased for a new champion there. This next fact could be a bit eye-opening for you. League of Legends is getting prettier and prettier as time moves forward. Riot figured out how to polish the looks of champions and spells without making them too chaotic in teamfights. Maybe with the exception of Irelia. That one is still too flashy. But at this point, no kind of graphics can push forward the overall immersion. Have you ever wondered why it feels so good to play Jhin? Why landing his crits and abilities is so satisfying? 60% of that would be because of the sound effects. The metal clicking of his reloading, the ting when his W connects. Even his traps have a feeling of anticipation for the explosion. It's all achieved through sounds. So knowing this, I don't understand why Riot never implemented this next step of immersion. Did you know that League of Legends has no sounds for moving your champion? No footsteps, no rattling, nothing. The only exception to this is Kled. When mounted on Skarl, you can hear his footsteps, but every other champion is silent. I understand that this could be a potential advantage on the serious competitive levels, but the immersion would go through the roof. Just have a look at this example. I believe the reason why Riot doesn't do this is to save up space and have faster loading screens. Since our channel is mainly dedicated to the lore of League of Legends, I'll sneak at least one lore fact on this list. When Noxus got updated and the story The Principles of Strength was released, the main characters mentioned something called the Fleshing. The Fleshing is a fancy name for the events of the main Noxian arena. In this arena, they make their war prisoners fight against other soldiers. But the more soldiers the prisoners kill, the more soldiers they will face in their next battle. Xin Zhao was once such a prisoner. He was captured during the invasion of Ionia, and he was forced to fight in the pits until he was rescued by a Demacian squad. This confirms that although Xin Zhao is fighting in the ranks of Demacia, he is from Ionia. This is also apparent from one of Irelia's quotes. And for the last fact on this list, we got something special. Ever since the universe launched and we got to learn a lot more about our favorite champions, it became apparent that certain champions can do a lot more than the game shows. There are some champions that have powerful skills in their lore, but they can't use them in-game because it either wouldn't make sense or it would be straight up overpowered. The best example of this is Lux. Lux can wield the light as a weapon, just like she does so in the game. In her story, she can burn pretty much anything to ashes, but she also has other clever uses for her powers. She can also refract or straight up reflect the light. This means that she can turn herself invisible. I understand why she can't do that in game though. Giving Lux stealth would be ridiculous, but if you wanted to be accurate to the lore, her shield should give her targets invisibility. Other champions that do something similar are Ahri, who can read or steal the memories of her victims. Garen, who should have a lot more magic resistance, since his plated patricide armor makes him practically immune to magic. Victor should have some form of self-healing, since he can cauterize his own wounds. Lee Sin, as we recently learned, should be able to wield the fire of the Dragon Spirit. And Amumu should be able to apply poison with his auto attacks, since even touching him will make your limbs fall off. There are many other champions like this, and for most of them it's just details. Still, it is very interesting to learn what our favorite characters can really do in their stories. And that was yet another 10 facts you didn't know about League. It will be really hard to make another video like this, since all the other interesting things are already well known. But in any way, tell me how many facts you didn't know this time. I wonder if I was still able to show you something new. And if you're interested in more videos like this one, we do have 2 other videos that are practically the same. Also, I know people are asking me to cover the stories of Karma, Yasuo and Riven. Just be patient, I'll get to it. But that's it for this video. Our social media will be in the description, so if you'd like to chat, head over there. Links to Twitch and P.O.Box will be there too. Of course, massive shout out to our patrons for going the extra mile. You guys are amazing. And with that, thank you so much for being here and for your support. You know I really appreciate it. And as always, thank you, come again.